How's everybody feeling? So
I for one want to just say that my feet hurt today. I've been walking around the park,
which is why he needs to start drinking.
Exactly. This is actually medicine. I don't know if any of you know this, but yeah.
So, how many folks have been here before and joined us for this event? So we're not going to tell you anything you don't know about our lives. Yeah, it is in a can.
It's in a can. That's a thing that you just found out.
A couple things about this.
We have cans?
A couple of things about this year. We're in the can form. We have shared a couple different beers during the festival. We shared our Pop Jam Festive Ale previous years. And with this one being transitioned to cans, we thought this would be a great one to have again back to this year. But have you guys enjoyed the food aspect of the festival? Have you adventured in that?
I really enjoyed the Italian food.
Yes. One of the cool things about, since many of you guys have joined us before, we talked a little more about the beer itself. I thought we might talk a little bit about the story of why we got into making beer. And thinking about the countries around, traveling around Epcot is, in a lot of ways, that's where the inspiration for making beer came from, was our ability to see the world, travel, get exposed to great flavors. And one of the cool things about, obviously, food and wine, beer gets left out, apparently, guys, thanks a lot. Food, wine, and beer. But alcoholic beverages, historically are paired with food. That's where it's consumed as a part of your culture. And that's one of the awesome things about different beers and styles, is it really reflects the culture and the subculture and how people choose to drink.
No beer on my phone.
And he'd like you to think this is his first one for the day.
I feel like I'm living like a live action photobomb.
Okay,
Like
I'm just talking, whole life.
I'm talking, and then there's this.
Tim was trying to make a serious point second. They're all like,
it's like a full-on.
sorry.
It's like a 20-year gift.
I'm sorry.
20. It's actually a 20-year gift. Okay, 25 years. So all that being said, this beer style, though it has an American flag on the front, and we're very proud to be American. This is actually a little more of an English style pale ale. And one of the reasons why this beer was the flavor that it is as we were starting the craft beer thing, especially IPAs are just blowing up, and everything's like the hoppiest is like, I want to taste a pine tree in my mouth, flavor.
Everybody was like, okay, so are anybody familiar with IBUs, International Bitterness Units? So IBUs, so when you walk in and they'd be like, we're going to make a beer that's 100 IBU, and you're like, you realize you can't taste it after 85, right? Yeah, but it's 100. You're like, okay.
So the basics of beer are, grain, water, yeast, and hops. And hops, being the rock star of beer, the thing that brings out that bitterness. International, India Pale Ales, IPAs, became really, really popular as we were beginning to do this. And we love IPAs, they're great. Joking about the pine trees was because a lot of the West Coast IPAs really have this strong piney flavor, which can be totally awesome, but it sort of overpowers your palate. But traditionally, like just pale ales, not India Pale Ales, were sort of the foundation of this style. And so we wanted to start with a beer that was like a forever beer. Like this is something that becomes like, it's in the fridge. It's like, for us, Sierra Nevada, which is like an iconic craft beer. And like we want this to be something that goes past trend.
And we want to point out that though it's a forever flavor, the beer will not last forever. If you want to drink it, feel free. It's on the table.
Yeah. Okay. So, are we getting a cue? All right.
Yes,
That was Zach's cue.
I've already started.
We would also like to not necessarily recommend drinking in the morning.
Though it is, if you're coming to taste and for the particular qualities of doing a taste testing, drinking in the morning is good because your palate is not fried. After you've done other things all day long,
One of my favorite days
it's not as good too.
in my 37 years was actually 9 a.m. in New Zealand at an outdoor bar with our friend Ben Middleton, tasting about half a dozen of these beers. Yes.
He then proceeded to leave his wife waiting at the dock to pick him up on a ferry, as you can remember.
Because we were all drunk. Yeah, it was a great day.
That was a good show, too, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just stayed with us.
I don't remember.
All right, well, so why doesn't everybody go
It's
out
like
and do a proverbial
what I
taste
hear.
testing? I'm not going to ask everyone to describe their flavor.
Salute.
Cheers to everybody in the Food and Wine Festival. So, I don't know how adept people are at tasting beers or, identifying things, but one thing you'll notice about this beer is it has some bitterness to it, but it's also kind of sweet. You have like a little caramel type of flavor, and that's the sweetness in beer comes from the grain. So this has a traditional English grain called Maris Otter, which is very, they say biscuity. I don't know if it really means anything to most people. It's like, I don't taste a biscuit.
I think that may be a lost in translation thing because they call cookies biscuits.
So you get a sweetness that is, I think of it as caramel flavor. So but it actually is really nice on your palate. But another thing to keep in mind in this beer is it tastes actually pretty even and even keeled, but it is strong. So we have damaged a few people's lawn mowing while drinking plants with this beer. I met two different guys that were like, man, I got young moms, I really like it. First of all, drinking and mowing is a bad idea, period.
It's even worse when you have like a zero turn.
No, but historically, like the summertime, I'm just gonna grab a light. I'm gonna grab a Miller Lite and drink it. I'm like, okay, you're that guy. Don't do that with this beer, because your tractor will be in the neighbor's back lawn. Anyway,
It's like drinking 2 Millers plus a little.
so yeah, this is 7.5%. So we think of it as quality. You can get a lot of bang for your buck with this beer. But one of the things I love about this is, as a fan of sort of the go-to beers versus the ones you can only drink once in a while, it really is like it doesn't kill your palate. It goes great with food. It goes great with it really, really pairs well with a hamburger or a steak because it has this nice full body. And yes, it will definitely do its job.
Actually, my favorite pairing is Indian food.
Yeah.
Even though this is not a India Pale Ale, the Pale Ale bitterness as a whole, whether it be an India Pale Ale or a Pale Ale, I think goes very well with curry.
And improves your personality.
Yes.
Wait, does it? Is that why I'm so charming?
I thought he has to have 2 or 3.
It improves the personality of whoever you're with.
Yes.
Yes.
No. You thought I was saying it improves my personality. I was saying it improves your personality.
It
This
makes
is
so
a
much more
dyslexic
sense.
thing.
The ingredients of hummus improves personality. Huh?
Do you guys have any questions, things you'd like to ask about the beer or about life?
We'd like for you to all drink the entire glass and then ask a question.
I want to hear. Yeah.
Working on a gluten-free thing for those of us.
The gluten-free beer. Did you ask this last year?
I know it's been for a few years, and you keep saying.
Well,
you keep saying.
let me short answer is no. But there are some breweries that are looking at that, and so that is a very specific endeavor. In fact, there's an Oklahoma brewery that is specifically dedicating themselves to trying to make gluten-free beer. So if they can figure it out, do it well, maybe we'll partner with them.
Exactly. There is a real challenge with making gluten-free beer.
Beer is
It's all that
basically
grain.
built on gluten. Yeah.
It's
Like a bread-free bread.
This guy right here.
Have you experimented with like a sour or anything like that?
We have not developed a recipe aside from trying to kind of look at other sours and go, where would we land? But definitely would like to at some point. I mean, sours are one of those things that if you do it right, it's amazing. If you do it bad,
Yeah.
it's really like that exact
Tastes like an orange head.
So that's one of those things that, with respect for it's like you don't just suddenly make sushi. You get there, and so that is a really something you want to do as an expert. Well, you just want to do really. So hopefully we'll get to that point. And it's also like part of it is identifying styles that you know you can sort of build around. But I love really good sours.
I know that there are quite a few folks that have been here before. I know there's also probably a few of you that have come to Hot Gin as well. I mean, we have done.
Has anybody been to Hot Gin in this group?
That's a pretty high percentage.
Thank you.
For those of you who haven't,
you're talking about the sours, and some of that. Hot Jam is an event we put on in Oklahoma. It's a beer festival and a music festival, and part of bringing all the different brewers to Oklahoma is about building relationships that maybe will become partnerships, or maybe you end up working with another brewer that does that really well.
You're thinking of Distill.
Distill is
so yeah, we're going to visit with Distill actually in about a week. Or not even that, like next week, yeah. But so collaboration, you never know. I mean, all right. In fact, they asked us about collaborating, so we'll learn.
In fact, actually, I mean,
and
one of the guys
they make great sours.
Yeah,
great sours. Most importantly, someone you can really learn from. I'm like, okay, talk to me, show us how do you do this? How do you do this really well?
And when he said collaboration, actually one of the master brewers and owners is actually the drummers who were kicking Zach out of the band. We're going to have him play drums, and Zach's going to go be the master brewer.
It's going to be really cool. Just make some really bad beer, but good drums. So, you have kept your hand up the whole time, haven't you?
I mean, hold. You stand by next. Well,
yes. Well, you can find it once a year here. You can find it, I believe, at the shop. One of these shops sells it. You can also buy it at Fife and Drum across from the fest.
Yeah,
I know, it's true. Go for it. I trust you. You're the man.
The simple answer is really just that we have gone through a lot of seasons since we started the brewery of how do we approach distribution, and we've kind of reined in our push outward to try and refine where we are. Yes. And so to be as steady and actually develop markets. So Florida actually is one. Being here, this festival has been a great opportunity to think about Florida. So I would say you're in a good place in Florida, you're in a good place in Oklahoma, and then there are, around that center of the region is definitely more like where our focus is. But having gone through, even switching to cans, when we started off, canning was not really, it was becoming something more accessible to people, and it was like more seen as this wasn't low gravity canning, but we switched over to cans fully because we could control our production and make it more in Oklahoma. It retains its quality longer. It's also accessible. Like you can have a can at a music event or a sporting event, or at a theme park, and people are walking around with their cans. They're like, "What is that beer?" Oh, it's Omaha's. It's delicious. You should get one.
For those who are aware of beer laws, also Oklahoma's beer laws have changed a lot recently, and so that's been.
They've gotten better.
Thank the Lord
in heaven.
We've just been really locally focused, and how Taylor was talking about sort of learning about distribution, and Florida's very far from Oklahoma, and so if you're doing that a lot, it really affects the life of beer and all that. Yeah, you can carpool. Okay. Yeah, you will need a designated driver.
I would definitely recommend carpooling if you're buying beer.
Hopefully this change will be positive and help us. We've sort of seen ourselves kind of waiting on these laws to change to see how that affects everything in the state where we're really based out of, and then hopefully it looks like it's going to be good for everybody, and that will help us go faster.
The other short answer to that is we are a small brewery doing as much as we possibly can.
It's just hard to make more than we drink.
So hard. Slow expansion.
Yeah, I mean, how many Hansons there are. There's so many Hanson. Everybody's always over testing beer.
Okay. This gentleman here.
Yeah. So probably everybody can't hear. He's asking about bucket list things for the beer. Well, so first of all, you mentioned string theory. Is anybody familiar with string theory? Awesome. So yeah, string theory was definitely bucket list. So now we're working our way down the list. On beer side, I mean, there's so many things. I think, talking about just really expanding styles, collaborations with other breweries is always fun because it does tilt you towards, other brewers, what, styles you would be inspired to do that maybe someone else is truly an expert at. But I just think it's really just expanding the experience around beer. Because, I mean, one of the things we do with Hot Jam, which is really awesome, is you get to fuse these worlds that we've lived in. But I think, really just, having no holds bar about the actual styles that are accessible. Some of the Belgian style beers that we've, are huge fans of, or sours, or it's really just, having an expanded roster. So hopefully next year will be a really big year.
I would like to get to a point where people don't have to ask that question. When can I get your beer blank? That's a bucket list.
Yeah, exactly.
Any other questions?
Did everybody hear the question? Probably not. She was asking about whether or not, she said that when we started brewing, we were considering the fact that since this was our first beer, that we probably should try and make it a little bit more palatable for more than just the hop style types, and which tend to be more of a male palate. Men like things a little bit more bitter. And so she was asking, what that process. She said that, I didn't say that. But it's true. It's science. No, just
science. White wine.
It wasn't really.
Exactly.
We're really making beer for ourselves, but we're self-aware enough to know who we're likely to be talking to first. But we really make something that we feel good about, and we did talk about kind of the gateway beer. But I think it's maybe not the best reference for the real style as much as to the whole approach. Like, it's more what I was saying before of having a actual style of beer that is the beer that invites you in and that is the standard. Like, is like the anchor that you're going to go back to time after time versus that, that heavy, crazy stout, that's aged in, whiskey barrels that you're going to drink once a month.
What he's saying is if our first beer was tasted like a ham sandwich, that would be really cool, but not kind of like an everyday thing. It'd be disgusting.
Hey man, why are you hating on ham sandwiches?
Probably also, pulling the curtain back a little bit to see the Wizard of Oz. I mean, some of that is a little bit of marketing for people trying to understand why you're creating beer. You're kind of going, don't be afraid, just give it a shot. And we really think it is a very everyday kind of beer, hops is. But you really do, you're kind of inviting people into something new, and so you're asking them to trust you in that way.
Yeah. I mean, newsflash, you do apparently like hoppier beers than you realize.
I think so just
hop is a scary word.
I think this is really interesting because we've heard, so you say you don't typically like hoppy beer, but you like this one. Maybe you do like hoppy beer. But I think one of the things that's happened, you're right, but one of the things that's happened is, our scale and talking about beer palate, as a culture we've gotten so that when we hear hops, we picture like a hop attack. Like historically, a hoppy beer was, a bitter, which was like more than a pilsner or a lager. So that bitterness. So we've actually culturally with craft beer gotten to expecting that when we see hops on something that it's going to be this insane IPA. Whereas really, you actually do apparently like hoppy beer. You just don't like really double IPAs.
I mean, because there's Cluster and Centennial and Columbus and Willamette all in there. So you like 4 hops at least.
Yeah. But she wouldn't like sucking on a hop.
No, I don't like sucking on a hop either. I like smelling one. They smell nice, but woo.
So you might want to try out some of their pale ales in general, not Indian pale ales, but just pale ales.
Yeah, because the IPA thing, that's a really important distinction because people think IPA versus PA. Pale ale, much mellower. IPA.
Not to be confused with PDA.
Does anybody know why it's called an India Pale Ale? No.
They're not going to raise their hand anyway.
Come on, I got ears on and I know.
Do you know why? Yeah, tell us why.
Right. So, pretty much. So when they were moving beer from Italy down to from England down to
It's the morning.
India, they put hops in to preserve the beer because it provides more hops meant that it was going to be better preserved, and so they would put it down as an Indian pale ale because it's headed to India and ultimately developed this flavor that is much stronger, more bitter because of the hops.
The other thing too that Zach was saying, and this is kind of more of a story thing, for me, things like Sierra Nevada Pale Ale were the kind of benchmark beer. For me, as far as really liking craft beer, it was that and a beer that's regionally made up in Kansas City, Missouri, called Boulevard. Boulevard makes a beer called a wheat beer, and those two beers for me were the ones that I really first fell in love with as a beer drinker. Because before that it was whiskey and wine, and I said to myself, yeah, I'm not really a beer guy because Miller Lite doesn't really quite do it for me. And then when you start traveling around, you start tasting more and more beer, and you say to yourself, oh, maybe I changed my mind. Maybe I do like hops more than I realized. Maybe I do like this flavor or that flavor more. And so that's really where that's part of why us starting with a pale ale was important, because for me, the pale ales were the ones that really got me hooked on craft beer.
Also a little bit of the green inspiration, green beer. There's pointing a lot.
Okay, probably one more question. Yeah.
Oh man.
You said that we could ask about beer or about life. Okay. And I want to know which one of the three of you drink the most.
Okay.
Who drinks the most? This is a good one to go out on.
Okay, Lee's most beer drinks the most.
That's true. It's hard to live with the two of us.
I just mix it up a lot.
Yeah. / mixed drinks. Thank you guys for being here.
Yes,
hope you guys enjoyed and don't forget you can get the beer while you're here. I know there are travelers and we do want the beer to continue to expand and be accessible, but it's not everywhere. So get some while you're here. And we are going to stop and take pictures, and we're all going to commemorate this beautiful moment. We signed a can for all our photo guests. So thank you guys. Thanks for being here.
Ladies and gentlemen, just to let you guys know, we will exit you in an orderly fashion for the meet and greet with the guys. We will start over here and stay put in your seats, and our guides will be able to take you to the location. All right? Thank you very much.